Hey everyone, and thanks for checking into the Breathless blog this week. I'm Brody, this is Dudley. He's the brains behind this organisation. And this week, for all the huffing and puffing I've been doing here at the moment, you'd think I just run a marathon, but actually my day is just evaporated before me. I've just lost the time that I wanted to go for an extra run. I've got a bit of a longer race coming up next week, and it's sort of freaking me out a little bit because I haven't really been able to invest the time into the preparation for this run as I might have wanted, just because it's been such a busy little period with a bit of travel and photography. As you would have seen the last couple of blogs, I've been away, Townsville, right at the top, out west of Queensland. It's just been fantastic. So it's been really nice just to actually spend a bit of time in my own bed this week. A little bit of time just trying to get some serious catch up done, which has been a little bit of a struggle, to be honest, but that's all right. But this week, probably pretty short and sharp, to be honest, but I want to share a couple of shoots with you that are much in the same type of fashion, given that they've been player portrait shoots for rugby union players. So a couple of weeks ago, through a contact at Nudge and a friend of a friend, the men and women Fijian rugby sevens team was in Brisbane here before they headed up to Townsville as part of the Pacific Sevens tournament. And at the last minute, their photographer must have fallen through. So yeah, through a contact, I got the call up, which was really, really exciting, which is great. Something a little bit different, but, and look, the platform to not only get some safe type of shots done in terms of portraiture and just being well exposed, well lit, clean backgrounds type of stuff, but also the ability then to get into a bit of creativity using some lights. And today, in fact, I've actually done a very similar, you could call it the same type of shoot with Nudgee College with their first 15 boys. So yeah, for whatever reason, the last couple of weeks, it's just turned out that rugby union, portrait style controlled light shoots have been where it's at. Now, to bring you into the approach that I've used to that, from a somewhat technical point of view, and just how I'm using lights to get the images that I've ended up with, is my ideas around it are, number one, wherever you're using a light, that's basically what we're trying to control, isn't it? So it's sort of that idea around whatever light we have available, trying to utilize that as much as we can, or bringing extra light into our photography. So I would say that, most of my photography, even now, like probably, 85% of what I do is used with natural light. Could be a wedding or, sport, something like that. The very vast majority of any family portraiture that I do is used with natural light, because I like the ability of it just to free people up, for people not to be necessarily intimidated by lots of lights and stuff hanging around them. But in a situation where I can dive into the world of using some artificial light, it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. And I'd encourage you, if you do have the opportunity with your photography to do it, go and do it and make a ton of mistakes. That's probably the best way to go about it, I reckon. There's so many online tutorials and, knowledge out there at the moment through YouTube and whatnot that talk about different, stops of light and ratios and, all sorts of things that you can go nuts with. But at the end of the day, like most things that I'm a champion for, is just to go and make a ton of mistakes with, what if I use this type of light at this power or at this aperture or these settings, or what's it going to do? But, so to give you an idea of some of where I start with, I have a couple of strobe flashes that I use. I always have one set up so that is my key light. So it's the one that I want to be the primary light source of a particular portrait. If that's the only light I have, I know I can still get away with a portrait that works quite well. Generally, I'll have it just a little bit, so like 45 degrees away from where I'm taking the photograph, just so that I get some nice, not direct side light, but it's not direct front line, it's sort of in the middle, if that kind of makes sense. So that just offers a little bit of shape to a face. Generally, I like to put a softbox on that. For me, I tend to, for that key light, I prefer to use probably the biggest one I've got. I think it's about 120 centimeters. And I try and have that quite close to my subject by knowing that the size of that light source compared to the subject that I have is going to soften out a lot of the skin tones and that kind of thing. So that's kind of a really rough explanation of the theory behind why I'm using that light and the big soft boxes and stuff. People often get scared by them. They think, oh, what's this massive big light source? But used in the right way, they're actually the best friend that you can ever have. Someone like me who's starting to get a few greys and a few wrinkles creeping in. They help soften things out, alleviate that kind of hard, edgy lines, if you like. Generally then, the second and third light I use, I sort of fluctuate between the two and often use them together with the key light that I have. And that being that, more often than not, I like having one just over the shoulder, directly opposite the key light that I have. And I sometimes use just a little speed light, like a little flash. And that's just to help sort of give a bit of a halo effect around some shoulders and hair and things like that. It just helps bring the subject forward off the background. For all of these portraits that I'll share with you, they've actually been used on a clean white backdrop. It's a reversible backdrop. It's got a green screen one side, just plain white the other side. And for those who may have had a bit of a play around with this using of artificial light or off-camera flash in relation to a white background, depending on the distance from that background and depending on the settings you use, you can go anywhere from really white, blindingly bright white, to a really rich, dark, charcoal grey, almost black, and really moody shots. So it's depending on how the settings you're using, on how the story and the emotional, the feel you're kind of going for, there's a lot of options available to you by using just a white background. So say, to try and give you an idea, I've got the key light sort of, can you see it? Over here, and I might have my secondary light just over the shoulder, so I've got a really well lit portrait at the front, a nice little light just giving a little bit of a separation from the backdrop. And the third light that I can use is one that sits over here and is generally underpowered by a couple of stops of light in relation to the key light, probably not as strong, just to help fill a little bit of shadow in around this side of my face. Now, is that the only thing I ever do? No, not at all. In fact, the most fun you can have is when you start dialing things up or dialing things down, turning this light off, using just the only one behind, changing the angle of your subject, changing the height of the lights, how close those lights are to faces. There's so much experimentation that goes with it, and a lot of like even today, mistakes are sort of made. But I guess the more and more you are doing that, then the more opportunities you're having to actually learn why maybe something's happening. And by a mistake, I'm often referring to, I'll take a photograph and I'll have a quick look down at the back screen, and a skin tone might be really bright, like overexposed, a bit, I call it hot. People are often flattered when I look down and the first thing I say is like, oh, that's a bit hot. I've had plenty of flattering responses in that regard, but sorry to let people down, but generally I'm looking at the type of a light that's, and how it reacts to people's skins or backgrounds and things like that. So yeah, like a mistake might be that something's a bit bright or things are a little bit dark. So with that, a really quick and simple way that you might be able to adjust that is either through obviously going and dialing up or down on the flash itself. In my case, I'm able to control that from a little unit that sits on top of my hot tube mount on my camera, which talks to all of the flashes at once. But even something as simple as walking over, picking up the flash on the stand and bringing it closer to be a bit hotter or warmer, or pushing it back to be a little bit darker or not as intense. That's always something you can do. So it's just little subtleties, and the way you're using light is really, really exciting. So yeah, I've probably shared a couple already. I'm going to share a few more images from the Fiji shoot with the boys and the girls, or the men and women I should say, from a couple of weeks ago, but also a couple from today. I probably had a little bit more time, or a different sort of time, to be able to, oh Dudley, jeez, frightened me. A little bit of time just to be able to play around today. And so I'll share those with you, and yeah, you'll see the shots that are what I would deem nice and safe, well lit, a couple of lights, very corporate. Mate, what are you doing? big guard dog, right through to some really edgy, using a lot of darkness and light and fall off on skin and trying to create a bit of an intensity around that, you know, heroic rugby player image we're going for. So thanks again. Hope you love the images. Until next week, this has been the Breathless blog. Something a bit lighter this week. You know, probably not as emotionally profound, which, to be honest, for me, and this little bloke here, I've no doubt is probably a bit refreshing for you, but something that I actually really needed, just to mellow out, absorb the last couple of weeks. But yeah, looking forward to the next couple as well. Plenty of shoots on and different types of shoots, which I'm happy and really keen to share with you. So thanks again. Breathless blog. I'm Brody. That's Dudley. Over and out. Till next time. See ya.